So hi guys, good day. My name is Kuya Bern and I'm going to talk to you about National Grid Corporation of the Philippines. So firstly, what is NGCP? So NGCP stands for National Grid Corporation of the Philippines, and it is owned by a private company that is in charge of operating, maintaining, and developing the country's state-owned power grid. So the questions that will be answered in this presentation is: first, does the National Grid Corporation of the Philippines, or NGCP, truly secure the energy reserves in the Philippines? Second, what made this energy corporation subject to penalization by a government official? And if it is true, what certain section or chapter do they fail to implement? So let's get on with the first question. So, the National Grid Corporation of the Philippines, NGCP, truly secured the energy reserves in the Philippines. So these terms: hidden kill switch, China's involvement, fear, solution, National Intelligence Coordination Agency, and or NICA, are closely related to each other. This is because of China's involvement in this on this, since NGCP is widely comprised of Chinese businessmen. There is a fear from the country's citizens as well as the government that they would have a control over the country's power. Thus, if an argument or an issue arises between the two countries, they might be able to put a hidden kill switch in our grid. However, to eliminate fear, uh, our government, led by our president, um, Ferdinand Marcos Jr., came up with the solution with the coordination of the National Intelligence Coordinating Agency, or NICA. This would be able uh, to have a joint collaboration between the NGCP and the Philippine Grid government. All of this can be seen in an article by Inquirer.net. So next is what made this energy corporation subject to penalization by a government official. If it is true, what certain section or chapter do they fail to implement? So first, Senator Win Gatchalian. So Senator Win Gatchalian renewed his call for an uninterrupted power supply since Philippines is a typhoon-prone country. As seen by an article published by GMA News Online, Senator Sherwin Gatchalian called on the Energy Regulatory Commission, or ERC, to impose penalty against the National Grid Corporation of the Philippines for its alleged failure to contract the required reserves to support the system. Senator even said, since NGCP is contracting, ERC should punish them so the next question is why ERC is not punishing them when clearly there is a violation of the policy. So he notes that it is the job of the ancillary service, which is NGCP, to provide this. It is their mandate as soon as they accepted the contract, and it is stated as well in the Philippine Grid Code, Chapter 2. So, Chapter 2 specifies the guidelines for grid management, the procedure for dispute resolution, the required operational reports, and the process for grid code enforcement and revision. So next is DOE, Department of Energy. So in Chapter 5 of the Philippine Grid Code, as seen in so so in an article by the Department of Energy in 2021, the, they pushed NGCP to contract sufficient power reserves for energy reliability, as they are obliged to provide sufficient levels of ancillary services or power reserves. However, in they were able to violate the Philippine Grid Code under Chapter 5 and Chapter 8. Because Chapter 5 means that they should follow the established rules and procedures by the and it is their responsibility and authority to control and maintenance, as well as safety procedures and testing. And in Chapter 8, they specify this pertaining to the compliance with the provision of the grid code. Here in the ERC, or the Energy Regulatory Commission, they made a draft in 2011 about the Ancillary Services Procurement Plan, which states the rules and terms and conditions for the provision of open access transmission service. The requirements are seen in the System Operations Ancillary Service, the section 3.0. At 3.1, specification of ancillary service. Under that is 3.1.1, regulating reserve service. 3.1.2, contingency reserve service. 3.1.3, dispatchable reserve service. 3.1.4, reactive power support service. And 3.1.5, block start service. So clearly in this, they were not able to comply, as the NGCP spokesperson Cynthia Albalanza said in an article by GMA News Online. NGCP, for the most part, fully contracted their ancillary service requirement that is needed to balance and stabilize the grid as operations as required in the PGC. Next is the NGCP ordered to explain lack of power reserves. In an article by Inquirer.net, sorry for the typo, the ERC has asked NGCP to explain why it should not be penalized for its failure to comply with the existing policies to ensure enough power reserves when power plant capacities are down. As seen in the article, ERC asked NGCP to explain why no administrative penalty should be imposed for its failure to comply with DOE's circular on contracting ancillary services, such as services are necessary to support uninterrupted transmission of electricity from power plants and to end users. So these are the requirements that NGCP failed to comply. So First is the DOE's approval of its Ancillary Service Agreement Procurement Plan, or the ASAPP. The next is Terms of Reference, the TOR of the Ancillary Service Competitive Selection Process, or the CSP. And the next is the Complete Competitive Bidding within 6 months of the effectivity of the DOE circular, which is later then complied by the NGCP, as they were given a 15 days upon receipt of the order to submit its verified explanation, including the necessary proof that will support its allegations. And the ERC took note of the letter form of former Energy Secretary Alfonso QC to NGCP President Anthony Almeida, wherein DOE flagged the lack of transparency on the conduct of its CSP. So, in conclusion, to answer the question one, um, to answer question one, does the National Grid Corporation of the Philippines truly secure the energy reserves of the Philippines? My thought on that question is that the NGCP has the ability to secure energy reserves of the country. However, the pressing issues they are going to must be solved first, accordingly, and find more ways to provide the needed energy reserve levels needed by the country, as they have access to a joint collaboration with the government of the Philippines, to find a more appropriate solution for the increase of the energy reserve levels. And second is, what made these energy corporations subject to penalization by a government official? If it's true, what certain section or chapter do they fail to implement? So in the second question, my thought is the NGCP was subjected to penalization by Senator Sherwin Gatchalian due to not having sufficient reserves as per the circulating power outages that went out for 2 days, and not having to file for the requirements as per the Philippine Grid Code under Chapter 2, 5, and 8. So that is all, and thank you for joining me today.